Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Imperial Galactic Survival with your currently Addled Akeva. Now, I'm going to be working on a new starter SV, and the reason for this being is that the old Ravenclaw here, which is about 3-4 years old at this point, it's a great starter, don't get me wrong, but it comes with a couple of problems that irk me to no end. Okay, so problem number one is that this thing is a little bit more show than it needs to be. And what I mean by that is that you have a lot of these shape blocks around the sides. Now, these shaping blocks, while they are show, are a bit more practical than you'd imagine. Except for this thing in the front here, underneath the cockpit. I don't know what that is, but let's go ahead and change the time of day, so you can see this a little bit better. And just for the sake of the video and my sanity, let's go ahead and change the color of this thing before I get started as well. So I'm gonna... Oh. Yeah, this is another problem. This thing is working on a 3-year-old color palette, so it's not great. Okay, so let's just turn it up a little bit. Okay. So, as you can see on this thing, it's got a lot of this extra fluff on the front. That's not exactly great. It looks great, but it's yeah. So the reason this has a lot of the extra fluff around the edges is because it's that type of armor where you take a hit and the armor takes a hit, and the armor goes away, and then you still have your important bits on the inside. Because the shaping blocks take damage before the main thing takes damage. And of course this thing has no shield. It has no way of upgrading to a shield. But the reason I love this little thing is, like, I know I've been ripping into it up until now. The reason I love this thing is it's cheap. It's bare bones. It doesn't have too many thrusters to make it hard to bring in. And it's got an armor locker. It's got your O2 station. And it's got two 1344 containers, which I'm not sure why that ammo container is 500, but whatever. Oh right, because it's only on that side. Anyways, it's also asymmetrical in the container controllers. So this was built back in the day during the, I think it was like a designer's challenge on the Excalibur server back when I believe that was a good server, and that I wasn't being used as a tool to, yeah, still bitter about that. It is what it is. I'm still bitter about that. And I won't go into that because this is not about drama. Needless to say, I was not happy with how the community treats people who ask questions and new members, and it got really, really toxic. So, yeah. I want to move away from this design because it's a great design, but I can do better with what I know now. And it is always good to continually improve and continually make new designs because, well, then you learn even more. Now, let's go ahead and get started, and I'm going to go ahead and show you another little tip and trick that I use. Because I build on planets, and I know some people like building on planets, but there's one main thing that keeps them from building on planets. And it's the fact that, oh, my SVs are going to fall over on planets. And I'm just like, guys, that's so easy to fix. If you want to build on a planet, do it. Just create something simple like this. It's very, very simple. All you need to do is create something like this. You start with a starter block. Okay, so you start with starter block. So let's go ahead and get the filters out here. Come on, game. Give me what I want. So we go ahead and start with a starter block. And a lot of people start with this in creative. And I'm just like, you don't need to. So what you can do is simply... And I'm going to create a new one right now. So this is going to be part of the video. You just assign the symmetry planes you want to assign. Simply put some blocks to the back, some blocks to the front, and then you remove the blocks you don't want. Just build it out like that. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this one real quick. Well, you know what? I'll leave it for the moment. Now, you don't have to... No, I gotta get rid of it. Okay. Let's just you know what? Let's do the DI because whatever. I'm sure I'm looking at the right one, right? Yeah, I am. Okay, whatever. It's not that hard to respawn a starter pad. Now, then I just go in and because I want it to look decent and I don't want it to look very nice, you don't have to be this bad with it with your OCD. Just put some blocks like that. Go ahead and remove those blocks. Okay. There we go. We've got a nice little starter block. And if you want to make sure that you know which way the front is facing, very, very simple, so that you know, and it might help to turn off that symmetry plane. There we go, and now you have an indicator of where the front of this thing is. Now, very, very simple, and there is an added benefit to doing this. So when you create a new SV, you're given the default color palette, which is to me very ick. And I mean it's great. It's just very ick, in my opinion. And give me a second here. Sorry about that. I'm still a little bit sick, and I don't think you wanted to hear me coughing. Okay, and yeah, I don't think that would have been great streaming material. Anyways, the added benefit of creating this is that you get to apply your own color palette from the get-go. You don't have to keep applying it for a new ship that you want. You've got something that's going to be stable on the pad, and it's going to save you time. And if you know anything about my videos, or if you're new to these videos, I am keen on giving you ways to save time. And that is absolutely something that I love doing. It is like, I love showing my tips and tricks for how to save time. And that is just regular. Now, I'm going to go ahead and slap on some fuel tanks because, I mean, you'll have to calculate well, you don't actually have to calculate the fuel consumption or anything because of these. Because you just remove these later on. Now, for this small project, because it's going to be a starter SV, I'm going to use just a basic small fuel tank for this. Now, normally I would just slap it with as many of these as I wanted to, and then just figure out the CPU later once it's in a state where it will free float, and then remove the starter stand with the selection tools. But because I'm going to be working on... Let's get this extra junk off my inventory right now. But because I'm working on a sort of starter SV, I don't want to have to think too much about it. And yes, I'm building this in Reforged Eden scenario at the moment, and the reason for that is I want it to be upgradable in RE as well. Now, if you want this for RE2, convert it to RE2. I'm not touching that right now while it's still in beta. Okay. I'm not touching RE2 while it's still in beta at the moment. I have plans to do it. It's just no. Also, I won't be needing hardened steel blocks. I will be needing very, very few steel blocks. Those are mostly just going to be in places like around the core, because this is going to be made of carbon. This is going to be made as much as possible out of carbon, and very little steel, and mostly functional blocks. That's the way this thing is. Actually, the majority of this thing is wherever possible. Wherever possible, this thing is made of carbon composite, apparently. But wherever possible, it's made of... Where are they? Screw it, I'll just tell you. It's mostly made of container extensions wherever possible, and... Or it should have been, anyways, I guess. I thought it was, but it wasn't. Okay. Apparently I completely forgot that one was... Wow, okay, yeah. That was mostly made of a carbon hull. I completely forgot about that. Whatever. Really? You give me the fucking short-range warp drive instead of... Oh, because it's named that way. Okay, whatever. Sorry. Sometimes I get really mad at the game for whatever reason. Now, this thing is going to have a warp drive. Yes, I know. It has to have one. So I'm just going to place the warp first. And I want to bring out something else as well. So this is one of my most popular starter SVs. It's a bit much, but it just looks good, which is why I think it's popular. Now you might be seeing some design inspirations here from the Maverick. The base game Maverick made by Vermilion, and that is intentional because it's basically a remodeled version, and it takes a lot of the aspects from that. But what I want to point out here is that this works in vanilla. This isn't going to work in Reforged. So, but I like a lot of the design aspects of it. Okay. Problem with this thing is the thrusters are not put in very smart ways. They're more for style than they are functionality, so I need to work on that too. So this thing needs to have the upgrade room for warp and shields. So I'm just gonna hit a light shield generator here because this game, I don't want light, I want standard because that's a basic one. Okay, warp and shield will go in the same spot. Now, you might be seeing a big problem here, and that is big boom when you shoot it. Yeah, I know. That's one of the problems with SV. And you know what? I don't want a warp capable SV to start off with. That's a tier 2 starting ship, okay? That's something where you need extenders and shit, and I've already got something for that. I've got the Warp Striker, which I've already got this. I've got two versions. I've got the RE version and the vanilla version. So these two, the Raven's Claw is just meant to get me off the ground. These two, one for Reforged and one for Vanilla, are meant to get me from the starting system. Go out, get ore. Go out, get some Neo ore, and get me back to the starter ship. So we don't need a warp drive, and I feel like an idiot for just even, yeah, I feel bad for just even putting that in there from the get-go. Okay, that's my bad. Okay, so we're gonna start out with just level 7 basic stuff, where you just, all your unlocks are done at level 7. So we're gonna start out with a better cockpit this time because I don't like the legacy cockpits personally. This is my favorite cockpit. It's a bit big, it's a bit clunky, but the view is open. I mean, it's not always the best one, but it works. Okay. Now, as with this one, we're going to put the forward thrusters on either side. You know what I just remembered? I just remembered why I used okay. So, before we get started, let's go ahead and update this starter block. So, shift select all. We're going to scale that selection so it only, we're going to copy it. We're not going to cut it, we're going to copy it because we're making another build. And we're going to paste it. So we're making another build where, and yes, it has 2 cores now, I don't care. There we go. Okay. Now this irks me a little bit to no end, so let me show you something. Yep, that's good. Might save me a little time if I do it this way. So I am going to show off a quick little thing there, and that is the delete function there. That simply allows you to just simply quickly delete something. Now, you might have seen that when I did that the first time, that it replaced it on one of the symmetry planes. Now, that is a completely valid way of of saving time as well. But the problem is you don't know which plane it's going to repeat or replace. So that works sometimes. Just keep it in mind that when you do that, that happens sometimes. And I don't know. I don't know the logic behind the behavior on it, but it's a way of saving a little bit of time. As long as you're consciously aware of what you're doing. So, anyways. Now we have a symmetry plane that's set to the in between two blocks, and the center is between two blocks. I don't know how to say that better. Anyways, so I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at this to see if I like the cockpit. Not really. Okay. Let's just go back to this one. I really don't like using this cockpit for a couple of reasons. Mainly because it's got such a huge hitbox. But it is necessary for what we're doing here, because what I have found, and I'm going to show you a little something interesting here. Normally, when you're playing Reforged, you have access to mechanical drills, which is absolutely glorious, and I think it should be a vanilla thing. But yeah, that it is what it is. So what I have found is that when you put mechanical drills on this, like so, it not only has a CPU for it in Reforged, but you have a little miner that you can go mine deposits with very, very early on to get a dedicated miner SV. Now, I know a lot of people like going to get dedicated miner SVs from the get-go, and in Reforged, this little Raven's Claw does that. So I want to be able to keep that aspect of this build where you can put mining drills on it. Or you can put mining drills on it, and it will say, okay, good. But on this one, just wanted to show off why I wanted those mining drills, why I wanted it as wide as it's going to be. Okay, so now I've shown that, I'm going to go ahead and grab some Gatling guns, because you need those to take on drones early on. So it will have the same complement of Gats. But unlike that one, it's going to... Come on, push it back a little bit, please. And turn on symmetry. Thank you. Great job, me. There we go. So, I am going to put the Gats right next to the cockpit because, well, I mean, if you're going to get wrecked, you're going to get wrecked. It's up to you as a pilot to make sure that you don't put this thing in a situation where you're going to get screwed and it's going to blow up. I mean, drones are easy enough to deal with. You just get above them. And ground troops, well, shouldn't be going into territory where there are ground troops that are shooting at you anyways with a starter SV. So I'll do my best. I'll do my best not to make it too explodey, but you're kind of limited when you're dealing with T1 resources, and you have how do I put this? A starter SV that has to be as compact as possible so that you can bring it in as quickly as possible. Okay, so yeah, don't give me a hard time that this is going to be a bomb, because it's going to be a bomb. It is what it is. It's going to be a flying bomb regardless, and there's not much I can do about it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add the drills. Okay, yeah, that's where they'll be placed. They'll be placed in front of thrusters. I know that's not great, but they're going to be added after the fact. It's fine. Okay, next I need to go ahead and grab a couple of other things. So we need an O2 station, because everybody needs that we need that on starter SVs. So we're going to grab oxygen station. We're also going to grab an armor locker. we're going to need container controllers and container extensions. As well as an ammunition controller. Now, one thing that I did with the Ravenclaw is the container controller here can be replaced with a harvest controller later on, when you get the unlock points for it in the resources and the levels. But for the moment, I'm going to start it with a container controller. And I'm going to do something novel here. I'm going to put the containers like this. So the entire thing is going to be a container controller. Okay, so before I do this and go down this route, there's something I want to consider. And I want you to consider as well. When you do blocks that are not full container extensions, there's something like more container space. That sounds great. But you're also paying the same resource costs for crafting them even when they're half the size. Now, later on, that doesn't really matter. But early on, is it better just to do that with maybe a little bit of carbon or a little bit of steel? I don't know. Anyways, something to think about. Now, on this one, I'm going to do a little bit of the more GEI styling style that I've been doing for a lot of SVs and CVs lately. But I don't know how I'm going to get that done, so we're going to figure it out. No, we're not going to do that. Okay. Let's keep it simple. We don't need to be fancy here. Too fancy here, anyways. Dang it, that's not what I'm looking for. Maybe it is, I don't know. Okay, so we don't need to worry about thrusters until we hit the back of the ship. And the reason I'm doing shaping like this is because it just looks cool for me. Now, let's see here. I apologize for my voice cracking and making a whole bunch of noises. Or not cracking, but sounding awful, but yeah. I caught something really bad. I don't know what it was. It wasn't pneumonia or something like that, but I caught something that knocked me out for a week. Like, the most I've been able to focus on is just simple tasks. I haven't been able to work. Well, I've been able to work maybe an hour here and there, but it's been bad. So what all devices do we need for this? And I probably should have thought about this. Well, we're going to need core, which I already had on my inventory. We're going to need thrusters in every direction, unless we want to make it a glider, which is, you know what, that actually might be worth it. I want to have room for a basic CPU extender. Let's see here, and I want to make sure, because I want the user to be able to upgrade the thrusters to something bigger, and I want to have space for them as well, which I probably should have thought about. So we're going to do medium thrusters, and we're also going to do these small jet thrusters as well. And we're going to make room. We're going to use a small generator, but we're going to make the room for it. I don't put fridges on SVs, because that goes on a dedicated, because I don't want to be carrying a fridge around personally. I mean, a player can add one, but I don't want to. Okay. Let's see, what else do we need here? Shield chargers, this is not gonna be a combat ship, and this is not for Reforged anyways, so I'm not gonna worry about those. We're going to need a wireless extender. I already have one of those, just doing that for muscle memory. And then that is basically it. All we need is we've got a cockpit, thrust on all directions, and some storage. Okay, that's all we need. Alright, an oxygen tank. That I should have thought of that. That's all we need for this thing. And the thrusters for this can be upgraded. So we're just gonna put that thruster there. Let's go ahead and get rid of why is that debug gun on that particular slot? I don't know. Whatever. So we're gonna need an oxygen tank, we're gonna need some fuel tanks, which we already have somewhere. Yep, here we are. So it's going to need 2 fuel tanks. Now I'm gonna turn off symmetry for this. This is looking more like a brick all the time, but that's fine. That's how this one started off. As it runs out of power as I'm talking, yeah, that tracks. I'll put those down there for the moment. I want to put storage on the sides and an O2 station, because there's space here for them, and if those get blown up, yeah, I know, I'm thinking of chain reaction resistance right now. I can't stop. So we're gonna put this cargo box. Which one of these has the most hit points? You know what? None of them do, so screw it. Whatever. Okay, now we've got that done. So we don't need those. Well, I'm going to keep them on my inventory, but I'm not going to use them at the moment. We might use these cargo boxes again soon. Now I want to try something real quick to save a little bit of block shaping. Might help if I turn on symmetry. Now I'm just using carbon blocks at the moment, but to be honest, these blocks don't need to be carbon. These can be container extensions as well, because there is that particular shape in container extensions, if I remember correctly. Well, there is this shape anyways. Apparently not. Okay. How is that not a container controller extension shape? That makes no sense. I gotta love this game sometimes. I'm scrapping that idea. It just doesn't work. On this one, it's just half blocks, and there's a reason for that, and it's because it doesn't look like a piece of crud. Now I am not happy with how pain in the butt it is to get underneath this and how much clipping I do, so I'm just gonna hit Control Select A, paste it, bring it up, and just move that selection so I can get underneath it a little bit easier. Very, very simple. I mean, I do want to put wings on this thing for multiple reasons. Not at all because just wings look cool. Come on, where is it? Yeah, wings don't work on a ship this small. That's all it is to it. I mean, you can add them later, but so much for that experiment. Okay. I'm not building something I don't need to overbuild it. What the heck did I do on this one? Oh, okay. Let's just go with simple. This is better. Okay, so that will allow use of these half blocks here. And container extensions. Currently trying to figure out where I want to do that. Okay. Okay. Come on, give me the right block, please. I don't think doing that adds anything to the build, and I think it just takes it away from the build, because instead of having all that room, you're focusing on a shaping that doesn't add anything there. So I'm not going to touch that. And I'm just not going to do that, because that just doesn't add anything. And this is looking extremely bare bones, which I'm not liking, but it's what I want. I need to find some ways to give it some eye candy. And because otherwise it's just not going to work at all. It's not going to look interesting. It's not going to do well on the workshop. And you know me, I build for the workshop, and sometimes I will change a build and make it a little bit more complex than it needs to be just because it needs to look good for the workshop, okay? And I'm fine with doing that occasionally. So I always... Let me turn off symmetry plane here before I start speaking, apparently. So whenever I'm making a small SV like this, I like to put the core and the core and anywhere you're going to need to put an upgrade right behind the cockpit, because then you can just pick up the cockpit. And I like doing that because that way you can just pick up the core, I mean the cockpit. Put the cockpit in your input, and then let me think about this here. Sorry, starting to lose it a little bit, getting tired again. You can just pick up the cockpit and have the bits behind it, the gubbins behind it, because it's just a lot easier to do it that way. And you can upgrade the cockpit to something a little bit more sturdy later on. But yeah, I'm starting to lose it. I might have to cut the stream short because it's already been 49 minutes and I'm already exhausted. We might have to pick this up next time. I really don't want to do that, but I might have to, because you're going to need to upgrade the CPU if you want to add extra drills or if you want to upgrade the thrusters or things like that. And it's good to have the space behind it to do that. So we need to deal with the thrusters. And we also need to have an oxygen tank. Now, I personally like to do 2 oxygen tanks. Just because... How did I handle that? Oh, that's how I handled that. Okay. So let's put the oxygen tanks here. The up thrusters were handled that way. Okay. I don't want to do that. Okay, so Now here's where the steel comes in. There we go. And this is where the length of the, how do I put it? The length of the Ravenclaw comes in, is because of how I situated the fuel tanks and made sure that they didn't explode each other. Yeah, I think I'm just going to do one oxygen tank. And I'm going to put that in a more explodey area later on. So, whenever you're doing side-to-side thrusters, make sure that you do them as far back from the center of mass as possible. Now, this one has 4, so I'm going to mirror that. And I'm going to turn symmetry plane back on. And we're going to leave space behind one of them because I want the ability to upgrade it later. So when you're leaving space behind something, it's always a good idea to use, well, a lot of people use truss blocks because, well, yeah, I'm just going to leave freaking empty space. Because, personally, I don't want freaking truss blocks. Also, I'm going to use black here because this one is the one that's going to be upgraded. Okay, now, this does leave a little problem of I don't have anything there at the moment. I can just fill that in with the container controllers. There we go. Simple as that. Let's see here. Now we need to get reverse thrust dealt with. And I kind of built myself into a corner here. Well, I've already got reverse thrust. So what the heck am I thinking? But we will need up and down. Now for down, I always do these. Looks like up and down is small thrusters there. Well, I'm going to leave them as this for the moment. And check CPU. Because I have some ideas about that. $4,610 is what I'm working with. 4,610 is what I'm working with. So I'm not quite there yet, but I haven't done the up thrusters yet. How many generators will this thing need? Oh, this thing has more fuel storage than I thought it did. I think it only has one basic generator. Well, it's got two basic generators. Okay, well that changes things a bit. Well, in that case, we're gonna put the generators on the sides here. Turn off symmetry plane. Put that there. It's gonna be a flying bomb, but you know what? I'm fine with that. I'd rather lose. Screw that. Yeah, that'll be fine, especially if I armor it properly. Okay, so O2 tanks are dealt with. Let's see. You know what? I'm gonna stop it here because I don't really know what I'm doing now. I mean, it looks awful. I mean, I'm looking at the Ravenclaw over there, and I'm just like, it looks awful comparatively. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop it here. I mean, it doesn't look that bad, but it looks not great. Let's see what the storage is. Well, storage is 4 times as much, so I'm gonna need more thrust. that thing barely handles storage as this. Barely handles the ability to fly with the storage that it is. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and stop it here, and I don't know what I'm gonna name this project yet, but yeah, anyways, it is what it is. Mostly done, but I have a feeling I'm gonna have to come back and visit this next weekend. Thank you for watching Weekend Addled building of the Kiva. I hope to see you guys next time. Remember to hit that like, that subscribe, and hopefully I'll be doing better next weekend. Remember to hit that like and that subscribe. Leave me a comment if you think I'm completely insane, or if you just want to let me know that I missed something or whatever. Love to hear from you. Love feedback, as long as it's constructive. Like, if it's not constructive feedback and it's just like, oh, you're crap, I mean, I guess I'll take that, but I mean, I'll salute you for, like, if you really don't like my content, then why are you leaving me a comment saying that I'm boring or something like that? I mean, isn't that too much effort for something you don't care about? I don't know. Anyways, probably shouldn't be making fun of my followers, but it's fine. Well, I shouldn't be making fun of my followers, but the people that just say you're crap, yeah, I'm gonna make fun of you. I do this because I enjoy it, not because I make money on it. I do this because I enjoy doing it. So, anyways, remember to be kind to your fellow human. Use positive, constructive feedback. Have a good day, guys.